community of just less than 5,000 people. I say community where people don't have to worry about murders, crime, and whatnot. But on April 17, 1992, the security was shattered. Andy Collins, a well-known and well-liked community citizen of the Lincoln community, was brutally murdered behind the high school track field.
Bob Sinclair, Lincoln Police Department. I was first notified of this homicide, and I believe it was between the hours of 10 and 12. I forget the exact time. I do have it written down, documented in my book that I have published. I received a call of a beating, not a homicide, but a beating. I proceeded to go up to the high school where I did find a body on the tennis courts. There was a witness there. I proceeded to question that witness. He gave me a lot of answers, but a lot of them answers did not add up. And I had a lot of questions that remain unanswered for a very long time, and to this day they still remain unanswered. I do believe Andy Collins was murdered. I do have a lot of doubts in my mind of the witness, Chris Womble. He clearly states that he was in the woods hunting illegally at night, and he heard a ball bouncing off the fence where Andy Collins was playing tennis by himself. Now I find it hard to believe that somebody out in the woods at night hunting illegally would take the time to go all the way back to the tennis courts because he heard a ball bounce against the fence. But yet he remains to that story, and to this day he still states that story, and I really have a lot of problems with that.
The people in the community of Lincoln automatically thought it was a homicide because there was a witness stating that it was a homicide. But according to some people, Andy Collins may not have been brutally murdered by somebody. He may have committed suicide.
I am the witness. I was hunting in the woods illegally at night. I do confess to that, but see, the way I see it is I was out with my 30-30 hunting, deer illegally, jacking. But when I was about 100 yards into the woods, there was a tennis school in the area, and I did hear multiple beatings against the fence, and it did not sound like a tennis ball or, a racket at that time, but what seemed to me is a human being being beaten against the fence, which I heard multiple screams. I don't know if it was fully with initial intent to kill or if it was a homicide, suicide or not. I mean, I didn't see what I saw. I came out of the woods. There were wolves behind me pushing me out. I was fighting for my own defense, but in the same sense, I did see someone getting beaten against the fence. I saw an object shape. I don't know if it was homicide, suicide, or what have you.
Approximately like 2 hours before Andy's death, Andy was at my house and him and I were drinking. And Andy was very depressed. He had just lost his job from Biddeford Textiles, and he had moved back in with his mother. However, Andy was unable to contribute to any kind of help at his mother's house. Therefore, his mother did ask him to leave and go move in with a friend. Andy was very upset. I could see it in his eyes. I mean, him and I discussed it, and And Andy made the statement, you know, if I went, nobody would even care, you know. Then he told me he was going to go up to the MA, behind the MA high school, and he wanted to play some tennis with me. And I told him I was a little too tired, I wanted to go to bed. So he asked me if I would take him for a ride up there, which I did at the time. And I dropped him off. So I do believe that the thrash and the banging on the tennis courts was Andy smashing his head up against the fence. I do believe that Andy did kill himself.
You do have a lot of varying opinions on what did happen. In fact, there were only 2 people involved in that night, and one of those 2 people, perhaps both of those 2 people, do know what really happened. My opinion as a police detective in this town is that Andy Collins was murdered, and in fact, he was murdered by Chris Womble.
Excuse me. Newsflash.
Update. Chris Womble has, in fact, confessed to the murder of Andy Collins, as I have suspected all along. He is in custody now, and...
Now, police have discovered that Chris Womble was not in hunting, but he actually had a tent hidden out in the back of the high school where he saw all of this happen. And as we search the tent, we do now believe that Chris was involved in, just look in the bag. I mean, he's got several, and this is his accomplice right here, he's got several items, stolen merchandise, drugs, and whatnot, and this indeed was a cover-up. He said he was hunting, but he really wasn't. Was Andy Collins murdered because somebody simply did not like his father? Or was there something different involved? Was Jay Hannigan even involved? Or did Andy Collins just simply disappear? If you have any information about this story, please call the Mattawamkeag Town Police Department or call our 1-800 number, 1-800-876-5353.